Welcome to the lesson on Risk Management Framework for DoD IT, a review of the RMF process. RMF and the associated A&A process steps is the standard DoD process to manage the secure implementation of IT systems and applications. Assessing and authorizing systems ensures that all systems connected to DoD networks have been secured to a minimum standard, allows a system to be tracked throughout the system lifecycle, and provides greater visibility of integrated systems and networks. In this lesson, you will learn about the 6 steps of RMF used specifically for the purposes of obtaining a Navy authorization to operate, ATO. After completing this lesson, you will be able to describe the RMF and identify each A&A process step, prioritize mission needs and requirements, justify business aspects of information security, classify types of threats and vulnerabilities, define risk management, assessment and authorization, compare ownership of responsibilities, ISSM, ISO, SM, risk analysts, validators, and UR. Explain the various types of authorizations. Discuss budget resource allocation. With RMF comes some improvements from the way DoD performed DoD Information Assurance Certification and Accreditation Process (DIACAP) activities. The 6-step process is based on the existing National Institute of Standards and Technologies RMF. This process has been used by civil and intelligence communities for some time, but is now common across all federal government organizations, including DoD. The decision to move toward a consistent RMF implementation was driven by a need for consistent security controls, reciprocity among organizations, stronger governance, and a move toward continuous monitoring. While the RMF is very similar to DIACAP, there are changes in the details that enhance the process. Adopts National Institute of Standards and Technologies RMF, used by civil and intelligence communities. Directs the use of CNSSI 1253 for security control categorization and selection and use of overlays. Clearly defines when IT should undergo the full RMF lifecycle. Promotes cybersecurity developmental test and evaluation, DT&E, and operational test and evaluation, OT&E, integration. Codifies reciprocity. Strengthens enterprise-wide IT governance. Emphasizes information system continuous monitoring and timely correction of deficiencies. Cybersecurity applies to all IT that receives, processes, stores, displays, or transmits DoD information. Therefore, all DoD IT has a requirement to implement the RMF, whether it be the full assess and authorize steps or just the assess activities outlined in the RMF. DoD has made a distinction between platform IT, PIT, and PIT systems as it relates to how RMF will be implemented. This course does not cover the PIT unique process steps, and instead guides the validator through the full A&A process, which can be tailored as necessary and as approved by the authorizing official. The Department of the Navy Chief Information Officer, DON CIO, is responsible for carrying out the Secretary of the Navy cybersecurity responsibilities assigned by Federal Information Security Management Act, FISMA. FCC, as the Navy's authorizing official, AO, is responsible for issuing a written authorization to operate DoD IT. The Navy's Security Control Assessors, SCAs, are responsible for issuing a Security Assessment Report, SAR, to the AO for consideration in making an authorization determination. The validator serves as an extension of the Navy SCAs and provides an independent assessment of the implementation of security controls, analyzes the test results, and provides the security assessment report to the SCA for approval. As a Navy validator, you will work most closely with the program manager, information system owner, to perform A&A activities. The Navy's Cybersecurity Analyst, CSA, and SCA liaisons will be the authoritative reviewers of your work. Take 2 minutes to review the key roles in the Navy RMF process as shown in the chart on the screen. Shown here are the 6 steps of the RMF lifecycle. An RMF security authorization package is developed through implementing the activities and tasks in each step, and the package is maintained throughout the lifecycle of the information system. RMF was designed for flexibility within the framework so that many different types of information systems are assessed and authorized according to the same standards. The next slides discuss each phase in detail. The key RMF Step 1 activity is to categorize the system in order to accurately identify the baseline set of applicable security controls. To do this, the ISSE, Information Owner, and Echelon 2 POC, with the support of the ISSM, must determine impact values for the information types processed, stored, transmitted, or protected by the information system, and use those impact values and the system's mission requirements to determine the final security categorization for the system. The AO Cybersecurity Analyst must concur with the categorization before moving to RMF Step 2. Additional activities include initiating the security plan, registering the system, and assigning qualified personnel to the RMF team. The outputs associated with this step include completed and concurred with the Navy System Categorization Form, Initial Security Plan, SP, that describes the characteristics and categorization of the system being authorized and identifies the RMF team members. Records created in EMAS and, if applicable, in DIT per DON. For PIT, include an assess-only determination. At a minimum, the RMF team members involved in Step 1 are the PM and ISO if different from the PM, ISSE, AOCSA, Echelon 2, and ISSM. You will learn more about selecting controls in the next CBT. Part of the registration process in Step 1 of the RMF is to determine the mission area. Defining mission area is the responsibility of the governing DoD component and system stakeholders, with support as needed from cybersecurity personnel. The AO authorization decision is based on a number of elements, and mission need is one of those critical elements. In Step 1 of the RMF, the governing DoD component cybersecurity program must register the information system based on mission area. The mission needs analysis is not the responsibility of a validator, but it is a critical component that a validator should know to assist with validating the RMF implementation. The key activity associated with Step 2 is establishing the final security control set, based on system categorization and tailoring activities. During this step, the security plan should be updated to include inheritance relationships, continuous monitoring plans, and annual review compliance reporting. The outputs associated with this step include approved system categorization, approved set of security controls, updated security plan that includes an overview of inheritance relationships, the initial information security continuous monitoring ISCM strategy, including annual review requirements and processes, a security assessment plan, SAP. Selecting security controls is a coordinated effort between the PM, ISSE, ISSM, Echelon 2, AO, CSA, SCA liaison, and the validator. Additionally, multiple organizations and entities that provide input for common controls, such as DON-CIO, must also be involved when applicable. As a security professional, you need to be able to address the complexities of security while balancing mission needs. Particularly during Step 2, you may be involved in evaluating the business aspect of information security. The mission needs must justify the cost of security control implementation and the resulting personnel and equipment required. A thorough understanding of an organization's mission, infrastructure, and changing environment is required to determine the right mix of security. In Step 3 of the Navy RMF, the PM, ISSE, and ISSM implement the completed and approved security control list, after which an initial test of the security control implementation is performed to verify that the required security controls are in place in preparation for the security control assessment in Step 4. The outputs associated with this step include updated SP based on the final implementation of the tailored security control set, updated security assessment plan with all test tools and methods used to verify the required security controls are in place, initial risk assessment report, RAR, with any vulnerabilities that remain open. Implementing security controls is a coordinated effort between the ISO PM, ISSM, and any other organizations and entities that provide input for common controls. The ISSE shall lead the security control implementation test in conjunction with the PM and user representative, UR. Particularly important during Step 3 is the review of threats and vulnerabilities to ensure security controls are implemented appropriately to counter these threats. As part of RMF, system owners must conduct a threat and vulnerability assessment of the system and associated networks. Threat assessments may change frequently based on the system purpose and external events. A threat is a human, natural, or environmental source with the capability of triggering a vulnerability. Threats are most often rated on likelihood of occurrence, from rare to certain, and capacity to inflict harm, from insignificant to catastrophic. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system that can be exploited and result in a security breach, violation of the system security policy, interruption or loss of service, loss of data integrity, or other events that would affect mission accomplishment. Later in the ANA process, the vulnerabilities are rated on potential for exploitation, from unlikely to highly likely, and you, as the Navy validator, must be able to articulate the impact of open vulnerabilities. In Step 4, the validator performs the official security assessment. The validator develops the SAR based on the initial findings and provides that to the PM and ISSE, who then remediate and mitigate any discovered vulnerabilities and document the residual risk on the RAR. The validator updates the SAR based on the updated RAR. The PM and ISSM update the POM based on the assessed open vulnerabilities in the SAR. The outputs associated with the step include updated security plan to capture corrective actions, security assessment report, updated risk assessment report, updated plan of actions and milestones. The validator, as an extension of the SCA, is responsible for performing the security control assessment. Remediation and mitigation should be a coordinated effort led by the PM and include input from the UR, ISSM, and ISSE, with assistance from the validator. The validator supports the PM and ISSE in performing the technical assessment to determine the residual risk of the open vulnerabilities for input into the SAR. The SCA liaison works with the Navy validator to develop the SAR. The PM and ISSM complete the POM in Step 5. There are many aspects of security that must be considered beyond the system's technical configuration. Understanding the impact of noncompliance with the security controls for any given system begins with an understanding of the impact each requirement has on the overall security of the facility and/or system. In RMF Step 5, the security authorization package is finalized and an authorization decision is issued. The Echelon 2 POC schedules and conducts the RMF Step 5 checkpoint with the SCA liaison and AO-CSA performing concurrent security authorization package reviews. The ISSE finalizes the RAR and the PM-ISO completes the RAR executive summary. The validator finalizes the SAR and completes the SAR executive summary with support from the SCA liaison for final submission to the SCA. The SAR executive summary is the final and official summary that certifies the risk as part of ANA. The SCA signs the SAR if in concurrence or sends it back for update if not. The AO-CSA processes the security authorization package with recommendation for AO signature. The AO reviews the security authorization package and makes an authorization decision and then generates an authorization decision document. The output for Step 5 will be a final security authorization package and an authorization decision document, which contains the authorization decision, terms and conditions for the authorization, and the authorization termination date. All Navy systems requiring authorization shall fall under one of the following 5 authorization types. 1. System authorization. 2. Type authorization. 3. Site authorization. 4. Leveraged authorization. 5. Authorization with multiple AOs. The authorization type determines the process steps that must be tailored to meet each of the RMF steps. Click on each authorization type to learn more. There are 4 types of authorization decisions made by the Navy AO. 1. Authorization to operate, ATO. 2. Authorization to operate with conditions. 3. Interim authorization to test, IATT. 4. Denial of authorization to operate, DATO. The typical ATO period is 3 years, and the typical ATO with conditions is 1 year. The duration of authorization is determined by the AO after assessing the risk versus operational need. In Step 6, the process enters the continuous monitoring phase, where the security controls are monitored and maintained for the life of the system, reauthorizing as required for system updates or reauthorization periodicity. Also testing a subset of the security controls employed within and inherited by the Information Systems IS or PIT is required. The output of Step 6 is a continually updated security authorization package in EMAS that tracks the compliance, non-compliance of the associated security controls over the life cycle of the system. The PM, ISSM, and Echelon 2 points of contact are responsible for implementing the Information Security Continuous Monitoring ISCM strategy agreed to in the final authorization decision. The risk management process involves reviewing and continuously monitoring the identified level of operational risk to ensure it does not exceed the level accepted by the AO. The POAM can be used to assist with risk management of the DoD information system, and the RMF package and artifacts are vital to managing and maintaining the acceptable level of risk. An assessment of unacceptable level of risk at any time warrants a denial of authorization to operate, DATO, and the system may be restricted, forced to uninstall, or shut down. Now that you have gone through each of the RMF steps, let's recap each of the documents developed during the RMF process that comprise the Security Authorization Package. As part of the RMF's A&A activities, the Security Authorization Package is generated and consists of several standalone documents that must be uploaded to EMAS, as well as EMAS-generated documents that are automatically created within the tool based on population of the required EMAS fields. The documentation requirements for a Security Authorization Package are subject to change, but are based on the 6 primary components depicted here. The validator is generally responsible for the development of the standalone Security Assessment Plan and Security Assessment Report, but may also be consulted by the PM for support in developing the Security Plan, the Risk Assessment Report, and the POAM directly in the EMAS tool. Additional artifacts such as inheritance documents, MOAs, or service-level agreements may also be required for upload depending on the system's characteristics. Comprehensively, these documents make up the RMF Security Authorization Package. Information security costs money, and as IT systems grow more complex, it is increasingly important to manage and plan for the cost of securing systems. Nearly every A&A policy includes a requirement for IA budget requirements. 8510.01, 8500.2, and FISMA documentation all include requirements to budget for A&A, annual reviews, FISMA compliance, and contingency plan testing. Program managers are responsible for planning and costing activities to implement, validate, and sustain security controls throughout the system lifecycle. An often overlooked component is hardware and software lifecycle management, which considers the cost of maintaining license agreements, upgrading to more recent versions, and replacing hardware components. Congratulations! You have completed the lesson on RMF for DoD IT. In this lesson, you learned the 6 steps of RMF and the roles and responsibilities of stakeholders involved throughout the process. You also learned the importance of security controls, risk management, and resource management as it relates to the RMF process and IT security. You should now be able to describe the RMF and identify each A&A process step, prioritize mission needs and requirements, justify business aspects of information security, classify types of threats and vulnerabilities, define risk management, assessment, and authorization, compare ownership of responsibilities, ISSM, ISO, SM, risk analysts, validators, and UR, explain the various types of authorizations, discuss budget resource allocation.